Okay, here's a walkthrough of how to do one of these long division problems. So this is in your homework packet. If you want to take notes on this as you're watching the videos, you can practice the process again and then refer back to this as you work through the story problems and use the template below. So this says you have 446 tiles to lay on the floor. If you can fit 6 tiles along the width of the floor, how many rows of tiles will you have? So 446 is our total amount of tiles. That's where we say we've got a shipment of tiles in, and we open the box, there's 446 of them. Then we're going to lay it along a big long hallway. We're going to put 6 tiles at a time along the width of the hallway. So this black box here is our long hallway. We don't know how many rows we're going to lay, so it's kind of open-ended there. This shows that we don't know how long it's going to be. But we're going to lay 6 tiles in a row. So we could go through and just lay 6 tiles at a time and go all the way through it. But we want to be more strategic than that and choose numbers that are going to work better. So that's where our benchmark numbers come in. Okay, so before you jump in and think about anything, I want you always to do your benchmark numbers. So I've moved this part actually up to the top because I want you to do this first so you can refer back to it. Okay, and as we're filling out benchmark numbers, I want you to go in this order. Do 1, 10, 100, and then we'll come back and do the halfway ones. Okay, so if we have 1 row of tiles, that's going to be 6 tiles. And we know that because there's 6 tiles per row, okay, per width of the hallway. Then jump to 10. This way it doesn't really require hardly any thinking at all, and you'll be able to get through this without doing too much intensive thinking at any point. So 1 row is 6, so 10 rows would be 60 tiles. 100 rows would be 600 tiles. Okay, now we're going to go back and do our halfway points. So if 10 rows gives us 60 tiles, 5 rows would be half of that, so that would be 30 tiles. Then go up here to 50. 50 is half of 100, so that would be 300 tiles for 50 rows. Okay, now these are benchmark numbers because they give us a pretty good idea of some important chunks of, or like groups that we could lay. So if we look at this, what would happen if we laid 100 rows of tiles? Well, we would have 600 tiles there. So let's take a look. In our shipment, we received 446 tiles. So we can't do 100 tiles. So let's try the next number in our benchmark list. Can we lay 50 rows of tiles? Yes, because 50 rows gives us 300 tiles. So you could go through and say, well, 446 is in between those two. So we could choose a number in the middle. We don't have to just use our benchmark numbers. So if you're comfortable doing that, you can say what's something in between 50 and 100. And I would not get so detailed that you say like 63 or something. We want to just keep this process simple. So if you want to choose 60, 70, 80, or 90, you could choose one of those numbers. But I'm going to show you for this example how to do this just with your benchmark numbers. So I'm going to say we're going to lay 50 rows. So number of rows, my first attempt here is to lay 50 rows. That gives me 300 tiles. Okay, now we did a good job. We've laid 300 of the 446 tiles. So we want to see what's left. So we have, here is our leftovers. And I started you off here with 446. That's the starting point. We laid 300 of those tiles. So then you subtract 6, 4, 1. So there are 146 tiles left. Okay, back to the benchmark list. We know that if we lay 50 rows, that's 300 tiles. And that's too many because now we only have 146 left. So let's go down to the next benchmark number. Okay, 10 rows will give us 60 tiles. We can definitely do 60 tiles if we have 146. So we could at this point say 10 rows gives us 60. Okay, let's play this out a little bit. So we laid 60 tiles. Let's see how many we have left to do. So 6 minus 0 is 6. 4 minus 6, you have to be careful on this. We cannot do 4 minus 6. Don't say 2 right there. But we can do 14 minus 6. So 14 minus 6 is 8. So we have 86 tiles left. And let's go back to our benchmark list. Okay. Let's look again at 10. 10 rows will give us 60 tiles. We can do that. So another 10 rows, another 60 tiles. So 86 that we started with, minus the 60 tiles we just laid. 6 minus 0 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. And we're getting really close. So put 26 here. And then go back to our benchmark numbers. We cannot do another 10 rows because that's 60 tiles. We only have 26 now. But we can do 5. 5 rows would give us 30. So let's do that. 5 rows gives us 30 tiles. Oops. That's really close. Sorry, we cannot do 5. So this is where you can be a little bit strategic. Say, no, we can't do that. We only have 26 tiles. Let's not jump all the way down to 1 because we know that 5 is super close. Let's go back a space to 4. Okay, so we know it's something in between 1 and 5. Let's choose 4. So you could multiply 6 times 4, or I want to show you how to just always think through what's happening here. We're doing 1 less row than 5, so we're doing 6 less tiles. So 6 less tiles than 30 gives us 24. Or if you wanted to, you could think of 6 tiles times 4 rows is 24. But there are different ways of thinking about it, but you get the same thing. 24 is good. We can do 24. So let's put 4 rows here, 24 tiles, and then look what's left over. We had 26 tiles left in our pile. We've done 24 of them. So 26 minus 24 is 2. And we are done. We cannot lay any more tiles because we have to have 6 tiles to make a row. So we write remainder 2. And then we just look how many rows did we lay. 50 plus 10 plus 10 plus 4. So 50, 60, 70, and 4. And we have 2 left over, remainder 2. Okay, so we didn't have to use all those spaces. If in the beginning, I want to show you, so if this makes sense, just do this. You can always use the benchmark numbers. But let me show you with a different color here. If in the very beginning we had noticed our 446 was in between 300 and 600, we could have guessed a number in between. So you don't have to do this. If you already got the answer and you want to do benchmark numbers only, then stop here. If you want to learn how to do it a little more strategically and think through it a little more, then keep listening. So we could have said, okay, we're looking for something in between 50 rows and 100 rows. And don't try like a number like 67 or something. Just go with the tens. Keep it with what you're doing there. So I would say halfway, kind of halfway in between 70. Let's just try that. So how do we know how many tiles would be in 70 rows? Okay, this is where you have to think carefully, because we know 50 rows is 300, and then we're laying 20 more rows. So we want how many more tiles? Pause and think about that. And when you're ready, you can click again. Okay, 20 more rows worth of tiles. Well, we know 10 rows is 60. So 20 rows would be double that, 120. So we want to add 120 here to our 300. So 300 plus 120 gives us 420. If we had done this we would see 420 is super close to 446. So we could have just done that. So we wouldn't have done all of this. We would have just jumped straight to 70 because we know that 70 rows gives us, what did I say, 420 tiles. And then we would say, okay, what's left? 446 that we started with minus 420. So 6, 2, we're down to 26 instantly. And that puts us right here. That jumps us all the way to this spot on the chart. So instead of doing 50, 10, and 10, we could have done it all at once with 70. But it's not necessarily a faster process because you still have to do this work that I did in green right here to see, okay, 70 rows would be how many tiles? So you think about how many tiles per row and figure that out. If you're comfortable with multiplication, here's another way you could look at it. There's lots of options. You could just do 70 times 4. Okay, that's the same thing that we're doing. We're taking our 50 rows and we're adding 20 more rows. You could get straight to the point if you're comfortable doing this. Sorry, I had to pause there because I knew something was wrong. This is the value of always thinking about what you're doing, because when you make a mistake like I just did, I could have deleted that, but I figure it's good experience for you guys to see me making a mistake and catching it, because this happens in the process. We're not doing times 4. Maybe, hopefully you caught that as I was doing it. You're like, Miss Bilisky, that's wrong. But anyways, I caught myself here because something was looking weird. We're doing 70 times 6 because we have 6 rows. Okay, so 70 times 6. The 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 7 is 42. So it's 420. If you're comfortable doing this kind of multiplication, then go for it. That's great. All the steps I'm showing you are just the way to kind of reliably go back and make sure you're always able to do the problem. But the more you know as the prior knowledge level, the faster it gets to do these kind of problems. So any way you think about it, whether you did this, whether you figured out that this was 420 as kind of a midway, or whether you just did the benchmark numbers, that's kind of 3 different ways of thinking about it, you'll get the right answer. Okay, so hopefully this helps. You can just use the benchmark numbers and you'll be fine, or you can go through and do it this way. This video already got longer than I thought it was. So you guys will also have 12 problems here, just choose 6 of them. I made half of them smaller numbers and half of them bigger numbers, so you can just choose what you're more comfortable with. If you're comfortable with the bigger numbers, please try those. But if that's overwhelming, just pick the ones that have smaller numbers in them, and that's totally fine. You'll get full credit either way. And then here's your blank template. So you can print this out 6 times, or if you're getting the hang of it, you can just show me your work. But I don't want to just see answers. I want to make sure that I see the work for what you're doing. All right, let me know if you still have questions after this, but hopefully this video is helpful. And if you guys are all doing really well with long division, we will move on to do something else. Okay, hope you guys are having a good week. Bye.